Well, hello, it's George Anderson here from Intelligent Running, and I'm joined today by two of probably the most famous people on the planet right now, Alan Murray and Janette Murray-Wakelin, live from Australia, Melbourne. Welcome, guys. Thanks for joining me today.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you for asking us to speak on your blog.
Well, just for anybody who's had their head under a rock for the last couple of weeks, or the last year for that matter, you guys have just finished an epic voyage of running 366 consecutive marathons around the coast, pretty much, of Australia, which is a world record, hence the 366, rather than just doing the year's worth. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe so.
Oh, that's a pretty impressive feat, and obviously I have a few questions to ask you about that. And the first one, the most pressing question for me, is whose idea was it?
It was mine. I have to admit it was mine.
How did you have the idea for a while and then decide to pitch it to Alan, or did you kind of just wake up one morning and say, "I've just had this amazing idea in my sleep. Let's run a year's worth of marathons"? How did it all pan out then, Janette?
Well, we had already run the length of New Zealand, which was 50 marathons in 50 days. 10 years earlier, or 13 now. And when we moved to Australia, which was about almost 5 years ago now, I just kind of thought to myself, wouldn't it be great if we could run all the way around Australia, just to bring the message, the really positive message that we have to as many people as possible. And when I said to Alan, well, let's just run around Australia, we can run a marathon a day and we can just keep going. And he said, do you realise how big it is? And once he'd done the math, he said, it's going to take a year. So I said, okay, well, we better start planning then. So, so we did.
Well, how much planning and preparation did it actually take then for you to get to the point where you're ready to go with that?
A lot. Pretty much 2 years of solid planning and
Right.
working on, getting sponsorship and working with the charities and obviously the training as well, and getting all our, nutrition right. And so, yeah, it took 2 years.
I was going to ask about the training, because a friend of mine, another crazy endurance guy, he did, Jerry Duffy, he's speaking at my event in Dublin, the Running Mojo, and he did 10 iron distance triathlons back to back, and it was a competition, and he won that. And his training took him a year. I mean, he was already a fit guy. He'd done 32 marathons in 32 days previously, but he still trained solidly for a year to get in shape for that. What kind of extra training did you have to do to get in a position where you were physically capable of doing what you did?
Yeah, so last year, the year before we ran, we actually did 6,000 kilometres just in training. And that consisted of a long run every Sunday. We'd run from our place into Melbourne, which is about 45 kilometres. And then during the week, we'd run half marathons and 20 Ks. But we ran every single day for a year. We never missed a day. And we were doing about 100 kilometres a week. 100 kilometres a week might sound like a lot, but on this trip that we've just done, it was 280 kilometres a week.
Yeah.
That was our actual mileage.
Close to 300,
yeah.
So did you have bigger weeks within that time then, when you were training, where you maybe put in 280 kilometres, or was it all just around the 100k mark?
Yeah, always over 100k. Sometimes you do like a 45 kilometre, a 20 kilometre, and then whatever it took, just whatever else we had time to do. It's very hard to train to run a marathon every day.
But you'd already done the New Zealand voyage. You knew how your bodies were going to react to consecutive marathons. I mean, at the end of the New Zealand 50 marathons in 50 days, because that's where you guys are from, isn't it? You're both Kiwis, is that right? You're not actually Australian. Does everyone say, "Oh, I've got the Australian couple"?
Absolutely. As soon as we'd done it, we suddenly became Australian. But we live here, so we don't mind.
Yeah. But at the end of that New Zealand adventure, how did you feel then? Did you feel like you could have gone on, or were you pretty spent at that point?
Well, we did. We sort of felt like we could keep, we wanted to turn around and run all the way back up. But we only felt like that, in theory, because we were glad to be finished. with this run, we do feel as if we could just keep running a marathon a day. We just don't have time.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
we don't have time for that.
What's more tiring, Janet? Running a marathon a day for a year, or the media scrum that you must have been faced with since 50 interviews you said you've done since you've been back?
It's certainly very time consuming and
very full on. So
juggle everybody, and we've got a lot of appointments coming up this year for different speaking events worldwide actually. So.
Yeah. Going back to the planning and the logistics, Alan, just talking to you before we came on live there, you were saying that you have to sell the caravan that you used to support your way around. How did you do it? Did you have someone with you as well supporting you driving the vehicle? How did it all work that way?
Yeah, that's correct. So we ended up buying a fairly heavy a ute, they call them here, like a utility wagon.
I've seen Neighbours, so I'm familiar with the terminology.
Yeah. And so we bought a Ford Falcon, and then we bought a nice little caravan to be towed around. But we decided too, fairly early on, that we would take a second vehicle. We tossed and we didn't really know if we should do this or not, but we took a second vehicle, and it proved to be very handy, just for making trips and to pick up extra food and being more alongside of us. So that's what we did. We have to sort of find a goal.
As a backup.
And so you don't want to be stuck out in the middle of nowhere, but it was just you two. You didn't have a support crew and someone giving you massages at the end of every day. And
we didn't have the massages, but we did have the support crew.
Okay.
And so we had 2 people with us at all times to drive the vehicles.
Yeah.
So that we could just go out and run, and they were, kept up with us and supplied us with bananas and water and whatever we needed while we were running. And so for the whole run, for the whole year, we ended up with about 20 different people overall.
Okay, so people in the shifts, yeah.
And they were all volunteers, and they did a great job, and, it would have been very difficult to do it without them.
Yeah, I imagine, because presumably you were doing A to B type runs for most of it, rather than out and back runs.
That's right.
You were actually going somewhere, weren't you? So you had to have somebody to take the bit. You couldn't have one of you run back to get the car at the end of the run each day. So
would have taken 2 years.
And tell me how you did it as well, because you when most people think about running a marathon, they think about entering for a race and doing it as fast as they can. But obviously that's not how you did this. I know you got up very early in the morning for each of your runs, presumably to beat the heat. I imagine it was pretty hot at the time.
Yeah, we got into a pretty strict sort of a routine. We set the alarm every morning for about 10 to 4, and we left the caravan every morning about 5 o'clock. It might seem a long time just to put your shoes on, but during that time we made ourselves a big smoothie. Sort of took our time to drink it a bit. So we would put about 20 bananas into the smoothie.
Each?
Between us.
So 10 each? Only 10?
10 bananas each. And a couple of grapefruit, a bit of ginger, and that's all it was. So we did that. And then we took off 5 o'clock. We'd run for about 10 kilometres. And the smaller vehicle would come alongside us after 10k and give us more bananas. So you usually had a snack of another 10 or 15 bananas each. And then we would take off again, and from then onwards it would be between 8 and 10 kilometres during the day. We would stop for some sort of, maybe another green smoothie or some more bananas or a big fruit salad.
Yeah.
Because that's what we really ate, was fruit and vegetables.
Yeah, I want to talk about your diet in a bit more detail shortly, because that was obviously a big part of it, and it was run raw, wasn't it? You were running and your raw food vegans. So I want to talk about how your diet helped, specifically with recovery. But in terms of the actual running of each of these marathons, you'd obviously measured out how far you had. You had to start here and finish here, and that's your marathon distance. How long? So you start at 5 o'clock. What sort of time were you finishing with, including the breaks?
Well, it depended on the day and what happened during the day. But we averaged around 6 to 6.5 hours running time.
Right.
And that's what we were planning to do because of it being consecutive for that long.
Yeah.
So, around about 7K per hour pace. But it really did depend on the weather. And so, if we needed to change our clothes or whatever, and on what we had to do in between times, because we were out there during the day. A lot of the times our interviews had to happen while we were on the run. Sometimes we were actually, we had the phone with us, so we'd be doing an interview, a radio, while we're running, and also having on some of our breaks where we stopped with the caravan, we would do Skype interviews or other things that we needed to catch up on. Now, Australia is a huge country, and a lot of it is we don't get any signal for phone or internet for a lot of the areas. So the other thing that happened a lot was if we got internet, we had to stop when we got it and catch up on, blogs and things like that. So sometimes it would take, we'd take a couple of hours off to do that and then keep running. So sometimes we were basically on the job, so to speak, for about 10 to 12 hours.
Yeah.
Just because it took that long to get finished. But generally we tried to get the marathon done, the distance done as quickly as we could within that 6 to 6.5 hours running time.
Because you have to factor, it's not like, right, I'm training for 4 months to peak, where I can run a marathon as fast as I can. It's completely different, isn't it, to what you did? Yeah.
Yeah, this was about endurance, not speed.
Yeah.
It was being able to consistently run a marathon every day, or that distance every day, at a consistent pace and without injury and without any problems. And it was all terrain and all climatic conditions.
Yeah. You've heard the expression, it's a marathon, not a sprint. We need to invent a new expression for this. This is the year of marathons, not just a marathon.
That's right, exactly.
You mentioned there as well about having so much media attention during it, and I mean, I was aware of what you were doing. It was there. I'd heard of you in the UK. I know a lot of people were following your journey, but obviously now it's everywhere. And I've been walking around saying, "Oh, have you heard of the Australian couple who's done 366 marathons?" And everybody, non-runners, non-exercisers, everybody said, "Oh yeah, no, I know, I've heard of them." But during, you had a fair bit of media attention as well. Now, did you find that added to the pressure, or did it help you to know that you had so much support on a global basis?
I think that with the media, it was something that the reason why we were out there for a full year was to be able to get a lot of media and a lot of attention, if you like, through the media, especially mainstream, to get that really good positive message out there. And so, we were basically for the first 6 months chasing them, trying to get that attention. Yeah. But then once we'd gone past the halfway point, then, I think they basically realized that this wasn't going to finish here. It was going to keep going. And so then they were following us. But the thing that was wonderful for us was having the support from the people who were following us on the website and the Facebook page that we have up.
Yeah.
And getting in really wonderful, encouraging comments and things. And that was great to hear that, we were inspiring a lot of people, but also just for us, ourselves personally, getting that support from people saying, yeah, keep going, it's great what you're doing. So it definitely was a big help for us.
Tell me about the message, because let's get to that now, because I know that was the reason you did it, and it's a really big thing, so I definitely want to cover that. And we mentioned a minute ago that you're raw food eat and you're vegans, and you've had a pretty incredible life as well, and done some incredible things. And Janette, I know you've had some personal challenges, health challenges over the year with breast cancer in 2002, I believe it was. So you're very passionate about diet and the other things that you stand for. So tell me a bit more about the specific messages that you really wanted to get out there with this.
Well, the main message was to encourage and inspire people to think more consciously about the choices they make in life, and making more real conscious lifestyle choices that involve what you're eating, how that's going to affect your diet, your health, how that's going to affect other people's health, and the health of animals. Obviously, we don't eat animals or any animal products, and that also goes through to the sustainability of the planet as well, and the environment. So that overall message, is sort of a good news message and hope for people who can see by the example of what we have been able to achieve by doing it on a raw vegan diet, plant-based diet alone, just fruit and vegetables, showing that everything and anything is possible when you eat really high nutrient-laden foods and your body becomes at a level of really optimal health. And so whatever health problems you may have, that can change that. That can bring you back to, rejuvenate your health back, as well as being able to get to a really high level of physical fitness as well. And it also brings clarity of mind, and that's something that a lot of people don't think of, but it certainly does when you're really, really healthy. And going from being not healthy to being really healthy is a huge difference. And at our age, we're both in our 60s, we're also showing that it's never too late to make those changes. You're never too old, and you're also never too young to think more consciously about the choices you make. And we've had some amazing comments from a lot of people saying, "Wow, I'm just going to start making changes now, to my life and to what I'm doing."
That must really drive you. That's what it's all about, right? When people come back to you and say, "No, because of you, I'm going to live more consciously. I'm going to change and try and be a better version of myself."
Yes, yeah.
Because you have a real fuzzy feeling inside, doesn't it, when that happens?
It does. Yeah. It does, and we're very we feel very blessed to have been a part of bringing that really good, positive message to the world. Really,
I must say, I think there's been a few myths out there that people think you have to take painkillers, and you have to drink Gatorade, and you have to take supplements and vitamins, and we really wanted to prove by example that you don't have to do any of those things. And if you just eat raw fruit, raw vegetables, nuts and seeds, and enough of it, that's the big thing, to have enough of what you will get everything you need. You'll get all the B12 you need, and all the calcium,
and all the
iron, and the protein. Because, the first question people say,
how do you eat protein?
And I think we sort of proved that we don't really have to worry about those sort of things.
Yeah.
So that, to me, was the biggest thing we could do, because people come up to us, people be interviewing us and saying, well, how can you do this only on fruit and only on vegetables? Well, we see it completely the opposite. We have to do this on fruit and vegetables.
Yeah.
Because anything like meat and milk and cheese will simply just get in the way.
Yeah.
And you guys, you don't just do it. You're very, very knowledgeable about this as well. Then, Janet, you've written a book, Raw Can Cure. Is that right? And that went back to your cancer. So tell us a bit more about that.
The book that I've published this year is called Raw Can Cure Cancer, and it's based on my story and my journey with being diagnosed with cancer, as well as some other people as well. So, and put together in a way that is, hopefully inspiring to other people, and can get that message out in a way that they can relate to that. And I wanted to share that with as many people as I could, in the book form, because I think that people don't know and are not given the information that is out there and available to us with regard to taking responsibility for your own health.
Yeah.
And we can certainly do that in a way of prevention, as well as changing the situation you may be in and health-wise as well. So yes, that my book is available. It's pretty much available worldwide now, but people can go on my website, which is rawcancure.com,
right.
To get more information about that.
And you get all the links, a link back to your main site as well, where people can make donations to the charities and causes
yes,
of support. I'll put that. I'll make sure we get that in at the end and on the website too. But sticking with nutrition for a moment, I put out to my subscribers, what questions would you ask, you guys? And probably the most common question was, how did you recover between each of the runs? I mentioned about kind of massage there and flippantly, but I'm imagining that nutrition was a key component of your recovery strategy.
Absolutely, yeah. I think it was because of the food that we eat, which is just 100% nutrient dense, and we eat a lot of it. We also, just to clarify, we also blend and make smoothies.
Yeah, so I was going to say that you drank quite a few of them as well.
Yeah, so that we get more of it that way. And because it is so nutrient dense, the body is recovering while we're running.
Right.
So, so while we're out there, so long as we get all the components right, as appears we did for, running consecutive marathons, then it basically rejuvenates as we're running, like your muscles and everything are rejuvenating as we're going, because they're just being powered and fueled by, 100% the best nutrients you can get. The body's not having to deal with anything else or to do anything else. And with regard to actual recovery, once we'd finished the run, making sure that we got enough sleep was really essential. What we noticed was that if we got 9 hours sleep, perfect. More would have been great, but 9 hours was perfect. 8 hours was good. If we got any less than that, which sometimes happened if, we had to stay up to do the internet or something, we noticed it.
Okay.
So, the following day, but not for long. Yeah, we just had more smoothies.
And then just make sure that the next night you did get a much better night's sleep. So
exactly.
Monitoring your body as you went. And as well as, there's so many different facets to your story, which is probably what makes it so incredible and such a newsworthy story, if there was anything else to add to it. But you mentioned there that you're both in your 60s, and I guess a lot of the media attention you've had is focused in on the fact that you are in your 60s and you're not some young bucks in their 20s, peak of their physical fitness of their youth. How that's obviously added another level to the story, but what you've done would have been an incredible achievement for anybody of any age and any ability. So do you feel that has kind of drawn away from it at all, or do you feel that the fact that it's added to the media frenzy has just been another thing to fuel the fire?
I think it's added to it, for sure. Yeah.
So it doesn't irritate you, think, because I saw on your website somebody said a headline had been "An elderly couple."
Written. We thought that was amusing. I guess it depends on what your definition of elderly is. But,
I know. That made me chuckle as well.
Age, I guess.
So okay, well, I'm glad to hear that didn't upset you at all. But the other thing you did was you also wore Vibram 5 fingers, and so you were effectively running barefoot. And this is a huge trend. I know we mentioned earlier it's obviously a growing trend in Australia, and it's also huge, I think, everywhere else around the world. And the question I had was, have you always been barefoot runners, or have you recently made that transition?
Yes, actually we made the transition about 2 years before the start of the run. And at first it seemed quite different to run in Vibram shoes. We really had to change our style. And we found really the only way we could do it, instead of sort of chopping back from one shoe to the other was just to disregard all the other shoes we ever had and just run in Vibrams and just cut back a bit on the mileage. So for the first few months, instead of running 100k a week, we just dropped back to about 50 kilometres a week and got used to the shoes and then just persevered. But I must say, up in the north of Australia, the roads are really, really chunky. They're like the gravel they use, although it's stuck on with a bit of tar, is very chunky. And often at the end of the day, we'd come in and our feet would be, both of us, our feet would be quite numb from the running. Mm-hmm. And all we could really do is just elevate them a little bit, put them up on something. Sometimes we'd soak them in some cool water. We even put them on some blocks of ice. But the interesting thing was in the morning, they were just 100% ready to go.
Back to normal again. Wow.
Yeah. And that was after sometimes only 6 or 7 hours sleep.
Yeah.
As you said.
Well, the thing too with the Vibrams is that it does assimilate running barefoot.
Yeah.
If we could have, we would have run barefoot, but unfortunately, with the chunky rocks are one thing, but also there's twigs and thorns and things like that you could get damaged with. But essentially, we were running barefoot with the shoes as protection because there's no support or anything in the shoes. And because of that, you assimilate running barefoot, which means that your body runs correctly for your body, for your feet. And so you don't get injured. So once you've transitioned back to natural way of running barefoot from what you used to do when you were a child, then you don't get injured. There's no injuries anymore.
So yeah, so it's just that transitional period, and you made sure that you did that a couple of years in advance, so your body was well adapted, and then didn't have any problems. So one of the other questions I had was, did you have any kind of injury scares or worries or moments where it looked like there could be a problem here? Is there anything like that?
Not from running, not from the shoes or anything like that, but a couple of times a bit more than a couple of times, we actually fell. So really? Tripped over something or tripped over nothing. And so then it was a little bit of a problem because a couple of times we actually got injured quite badly. The fall, it's not the falling, it's the stopping at the other end that hurts.
Yeah, the braking.
So, the braking. So we did, I think we sort of cracked a couple of ribs. Both of us have had the same thing. But we knew we had to keep going, and we just kept going. And amazingly, I suppose, the body was able to heal these problems within about 3 weeks of continuing to run a marathon a day in quite severe pain, but we didn't take any painkillers because we needed to know, how much pain we're in so that we could slow up. So we did very slow marathons during that time.
It's natural signals.
Yeah. So it was, that was the only time.
Because have you been out running since you finished?
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we wouldn't stop doing something that works.
Have you just been doing running every day, just not a marathon every day then?
Yeah, pretty much. We took off a couple of days in the beginning there and had to sleep in and had the grandkids jumping all over us in the morning. That was lovely. But we live in a beautiful area where we have a river nearby, and everybody in the village, wanders down along the river in the morning. So for us, it's a nice social time to just go and run along the trail, and so we do that. Yeah, pretty much every day.
What was it like when you did finish? When you'd finally completed this journey? I looked back at some of the last few days of Facebook posts. Obviously, the anticipation, the excitement of completing the challenge. But what feelings were you left with when it was all over?
Well, I must admit, as we ran into the final destination, which is here in our hometown, we'd always visualised what it was going to be like, but it was nothing like that. It was very, very emotional. we ran the last day. We actually ended up running about 46 kilometres, I think, from Melbourne.
47.
Because we took a wrong turn. From Melbourne to our home here, it was about 46 kilometres. And we came around the corner and there was a stage. It was actually raining lightly and quite cold. And instead of us being on the stage and talking to the people out there on the field, like I had imagined, everybody was on the stage because it was the only dry place in town. So we were on the stage with probably 200 or 300 people, and some of the news people had followed us there. Mm. It was very, very emotional, and I think we both spoke fairly well and to say what we'd done. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it was, but the last, I don't even remember the last 15 or 20k. No. Now, people came to join us. We ended up a bit like Forrest Gump with more and more people following us along.
Yeah, we had about 50 people with us when we came.
And I honestly don't remember. I just remember talking to various people, but the last few kilometres just flew by.
It was probably, like it didn't feel like a marathon at all that day. Yeah, it was close to 47k, I think, and it just didn't, it just went really quickly. And
so after everything had died down and you were back home and it was just the two of you again and alone with your own thoughts, what was the overriding sense then? Achievement, emptiness, what's next? What was the thing that you were left with?
Go
on. Well, I really don't know how you can explain it. Several times we just sort of looked at each other and said, we did it, we've done it, yeah, quite emotional.
Oh.
But a sense of achievement, I suppose, but when you're doing a marathon a day every day for a year, it's like you're achieving it every day as opposed to, it's not one big event.
You have to wait till the end till you've achieved it,
Yeah. So I think it's just we feel really really blessed that we've been able to do what we did, what we set out to do, and that was really to inspire a lot of people. And I think that's more of an achievement than the running, to be honest. The running is just something we do. And running a marathon a day is obviously totally achievable. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my last question kind of comes in off that, really. I just want to read it so I get it right. But this is something I got off your website, and it really resonated with me. And it's something that, a beautiful quote. You said, inspiration is what motivates people to never stop pushing for what they believe in and for what they want to achieve. So, and that's straight off the homepage of your website. Now, your journey has undoubtedly touched millions and affected and motivated and inspired millions. So my final question is, what is it that inspires and motivates you? Is it a thing, an ideal, or a person? What is it that really drives you guys?
Well, I think that the experiences and knowledge that we've gained over our lifetime through different different experiences that we've had and people we've met, I think what inspires us is to be able to share all that information and all those experiences with others. There are so many different people and circumstances that have inspired us over the years, but overall, I think it's really the inspiration is to be able to share as much as we can what we know and the truth of what is there for everybody. And yeah, I think. Would you say?
Yeah, I'll also say that once we made the commitment, like we decided to actually do this thing, then we had to have some help. We needed some extra money. We needed some sponsors for food and fuel and that sort of thing. Once we had those in place, there was no doubt that we had to finish it.
There was no turning back then.
We couldn't let these people down. In fact, one of our backers who gave us a lump of money, to be quite honest, he said, you just go out there and do what you said you were going to do. And don't get hurt and finish the job. That's what he said. And so every day I was thinking, well, we've made this, someone's helped us here. And people helped us all through the whole event by giving us extra food and other donations. That we just knew that even though some days it was a bit awkward or a bit painful, we had to do it.
And also because we had made a commitment to the charities to bring awareness for them, sometimes when we weren't, when we were feeling down or the weather was really bad and it was hard to keep going, we just think of them. And so that inspired us to keep going.
And there were some tough days out there. There were 2 particular days when Janette fell a bit heavier than other days. She had a few falls, but 2 of them, I really wondered if that was going to be the end of it. And there was one day there where she was hurting so much. I said, look, I'll just run back and get the caravan. We'll drive it up here. You can get in, and we'll just drive back to Melbourne. That's the way I really felt. But Janette, who was the one that was in pain, I was just feeling sorry for her. But she was the one that had to make the decision. She said, oh no, we'll be all right. Just give me a few minutes to get my breath back and lick my wounds, and we'll be on our way again. So, but it did feel like...
So that was the moment you came the closest then?
Pretty much. Yeah. But it's like, when you do make a commitment and you feel passionately about what you're doing and why you're doing it, and being able to share it with so many people, I think it's like marriage really. When you make a commitment, you support each other and you keep going no matter what, because it's people are watching and people are relying on you, and you need to keep going. You just keep going.
Well, that's a great message, and a lot of runners, recreational runners, motivation is something that they I know for a fact they tend to struggle with either getting in the first place or maintaining. So that message and what you've done I know would have gone a long way to paying into that motivational bank account for a lot of people, and so you've created a legacy, I think, here with what you've done. I know there'll be more to come, and I'm just really thrilled to have had the opportunity to meet you via Skype with the 11-hour time difference that we've got. It's 6 a.m. here in the UK and it's 5 p.m. where you are. So the wonders of modern technology. So thank you very much for your time today. For people who want to find out more about your journey, the Run Raw Challenge, and find out more about the charities and good causes that you support and make a donation, where's the best place for them to go?
To our website, which is runningrawaroundaustralia.com.
Runningrawaroundaustralia.com. Okay, I'll make sure we get that link up as well. And everything's on there, right?
Yes, everything's on there.
And your Facebook page is very good as well. There's lots of other information and interaction.
Yes, and there's a link through from the website to the Facebook page as well. So
fantastic.
Yeah, and I'll be putting up a new, probably on a weekly basis at this point. So the Facebook page and the website will keep going.
Brilliant. Well, once again, thank you so much. And I know you have another interview later on this evening with somebody else, probably to answer the same sort of questions. So thanks for your time. It really is appreciated. And the best of luck with the next challenge that waits you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.